His earliest memory was very bright, looking up at the sky. But then, everything turned into a fiery disaster around him as an airplane crashed. He lost his parents in that terrible plane crash and was left all alone, wandering through the wilderness. He felt so incredibly thirsty, desperately needing water to survive. Weak and exhausted, he fell to the ground, feeling like he couldn't move another step. Lying there, he truly believed his life was about to end right then and there. Suddenly, a tough-looking man asked him if he wanted to live. Even though he was badly hurt, the young boy stretched out his hand, wanting to live. The man, his future adoptive father, told him he would face a very hard life, making one of his soldiers complain about taking a kid during a mission. But Yuhei, a strong man with an anicaps, shut them down fiercely, reminding them he was the boss, and this was his first meeting with his adoptive father. Later, in a small camp, Guzu gave the boy a revolver, telling him to take it. He explained that from now on, that pistol was his family. The boy held the revolver, understanding that he would live and die with it. Guzu promised to provide food, but warned there would be no softness or easy ways. He told the boy to eat well, because once he finished, he would become a warrior. The boy started eating the military meal, wondering what it meant to be a warrior. Guzu declared he would train him non-stop for 5 years to turn him into a complete warrior. Yuhei was a real combat expert, always doing secret military operations all over the world. He was very strict, pushing the boy hard and telling him to get up after a fall. The boy was constantly beaten to learn martial arts and how to use all sorts of weapons, never allowed to give up. Soon, no one in their group dared to treat the boy badly anymore. He quickly mastered shooting handguns, then moved on to sniper rifles, learning to aim with deadly accuracy. He became incredibly good, able to hit targets with amazing force and precision. At just 10 years old, he impressed everyone by taking down a wild boar with a single shot. Other soldiers wondered if he was a genius, even thinking he might be better than their captain, who was known for incredible long-range shots. They concluded he couldn't beat their captain, but still looked forward to seeing what this talented kid would become. 12 years went by, and the world remained a place of conflict and war. Soldiers on the front line heard rumors that a feared mercenary called Crimson had arrived to help. Many didn't know who Crimson was, but others explained he was one of the world's most famous mercenaries, with a trail of countless dead bodies marking his name. They said Crimson made battlefields turn red with blood. People whispered that he was a master sniper, so good he could hit a mosquito's left eye from 2 kilometers away, though some found that hard to believe. Suddenly, one soldier was shot right in the head, causing panic. Chaos erupted as others fell, and the remaining soldiers were confused because they didn't hear any gunshots from an enemy within their territory. It seemed impossible for an enemy to get so deep into their army's area. But Crimson, with his sniper rifle, was high up in a ruined building, watching them. He had his next targets in his sights, ready to strike again without warning. More soldiers were killed, making the others furious and desperate to find him. Crimson, with his glowing red eyes, was right there, taking them all down. He calmly declared he would wipe out all the weak soldiers. Standing amidst the destruction, Crimson had completed his task. His mission was to sneak into the enemy camp, kill their general, and cause as much damage as possible, earning him a cool 50,000 euros. As he prepared to leave and report to his father, he spotted another enemy unit. It seemed his luck had run out for the day, as another unit had heard the previous gunfire and was now coming for him, angry that he killed their general. The enemy soldiers sped towards him in a jeep, yelling threats, but Crimson was ready to fight them all. He pulled out a revolver, making the approaching soldiers wonder why anyone would bring such an old-fashioned gun to a fight. Crimson showed them not to underestimate his revolver, explaining its 3 big advantages. First, a revolver never gets jammed, ensuring every shot fires cleanly. Second, it shoots big, powerful bullets that can go through almost anything. Crimson proved this by firing the powerful shot hitting an enemy with impact. Third, he believed it had special luck from the goddess of the battlefield, allowing him to take down 2 enemies with 1 shot. He continued firing, showing the revolver's power and his incredible skill. With another powerful shot, he aimed for the jeep's tire. The shot hit its mark, causing the vehicle to explode in a massive fireball, taking out all the remaining enemies. From the burning building, Crimson looked down at the chaos he created. The enemy soldiers on the ground saw him as a monster, a demon. This was the legendary mercenary, Crimson, in action. He then climbed a ladder to a waiting helicopter, leaving the burning battlefield behind. The helicopter lifted off, carrying him away from the destroyed city. Inside the helicopter, Crimson reported to his father, Guzu, that he had killed the enemy general, making it his 3rd general kill in this war. His father then told him that he had a brand new mission. Crimson wondered if it was another general to assassinate or a base to destroy, thinking those missions might actually be easier. His father then dropped a surprising bomb. His next mission was to go to Japan. Crimson was shocked and asked if he was supposed to assassinate the Prime Minister of Japan. His father said no, that wasn't it, as Crimson continued to guess at important targets like the Minister of Defense. His father then revealed the truth. Crimson would become a teacher at a fancy high school. Crimson couldn't believe what he was hearing and asked his father to repeat it. His father calmly confirmed that he would indeed be a teacher, leaving Crimson confused, wondering if it was a secret code for something else. He asked again if it was actually an assassination mission hidden in code. But his father insisted that no, he would truly, genuinely just be a teacher, which made Crimson question how a mercenary like him could do such a thing. His father explained it was an infiltration mission, similar to the VIP bodyguard jobs he had done before. Crimson pointed out he didn't even have a teaching license, but his father asked about his language skills. Crimson mentioned he could speak about 5 languages, which made his father smile, saying he would go as an English teacher. Crimson asked if this decision was final, and his father confirmed it, adding that a fake ID and a place to live were already prepared. He was given less than 24 hours to leave his current location and head to Japan. Holding his passport, he prepared for the flight from Budapest to Narita. His new identity was Echizen Shouta, marking a huge change in his life. With his new passport showing his fake identity, he boarded the plane. Sitting on the plane, he sighed, thinking about what lay ahead. He realized this new mission, being a high school teacher, felt even more difficult than assassinating the President of the United States. The main character suddenly learned that his next big mission would take him all the way to Japan. For this mission, he got a new identity and a new name, Shota Echizen, complete with a new passport. Soon after, Shota was on a plane, flying high above the city lights as he headed towards Japan. The journey was long, but he was finally on his way to his new assignment. Once in Japan, Shota found himself sitting in a peaceful park, admiring the Tokyo Tower in the distance and thinking how amazing the country was. He enjoyed some food he bought from a convenience store, impressed by how delicious and affordable it was, even with such clean packaging. He watched people around him, a family having fun and an old man with his dog, all enjoying the beautiful day. Shota reflected on how calm and peaceful everything seemed in this new place. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of dangerous mission could be waiting for him in such a tranquil country, but it was time to head to his safe house. He checked the address on his phone, realizing it was in Shirakendai, a very fancy residential area in Japan. This was the beginning of Chapter 2, introducing the new setting and challenges.
Smash that like button. If this is your first time here or you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe right now. And yes, activate that hype button too so the video can reach even more people. Drop your opinion in the comments or leave a funny emoji. Everything works. Every single like, subscribe, and hype gives us a power boost, bro.
Shota's eyes quickly narrowed as the attacker lunged at him with a knife. The attacker, a confident man with long hair, smirked, sure of his surprise attack. But Shota was too quick, dodging the knife and spitting water from his bottle right into the attacker's face. The attacker was completely shocked by Shota's incredible speed. Shota then powerfully hit the attacker with the water bottle, sending him flying. The attacker stumbled back, his mouth bleeding, and dropped his knife in defeat. Shota continued his rapid assault, showing no mercy as he kept hitting the attacker. The knife spun in the air as Shota delivered a final, strong kick to his opponent. Shota's eyes glowed with intense power, and the attacker was amazed by his incredible strength, recognizing him as the legendary Crimson. Shota had easily won the fight, gripping the attacker firmly. Shota commented that Japan might seem safe, but in reality, safety often comes at a price. The defeated man admitted he almost died and couldn't beat Crimson alone, promising to come back with a team of 5 next time. Shota thought the man was quite confident, but the attackers suggested they might actually win if they worked as a team. Just then, a girl with purple hair appeared from behind, pointing a gun at Shota. She warned him not to move or she would shoot, but Shota noticed the gun's hammer wasn't ready to fire. She looked surprised when he pointed out her mistake. Shota quickly grabbed the gun's cylinder, explaining that a revolver won't fire if it's held like that. She thanked him for the tip, admitting she usually doesn't use guns for support. The defeated man, Ulfheim, watched them. She announced that she and Ulfheim were in charge of his rear support, leaving Shota confused about who they were. Ulfheim then introduced himself, explaining he would be attending Manhwa Academy as an art teacher to support Shota, a legendary mercenary who apparently lacks common sense. The girl, Maylin, also introduced herself, saying she would be his student, supporting him from the shadows. Shota immediately understood they were his support agents, realizing their attack was just a test to confirm his abilities. Alfheim and Maylin looked a bit awkward after being exposed, but Alfheim declared they were a team from that day on. Shota then looked at Maylin and asked why someone clearly over 20 years old would be acting as a high school student. Maylin got really angry, shouting and asking where his eyes were to say such a thing. She also scolded him for not taking off his shoes in the room, reminding him that it was a Japanese custom. Alfheim chuckled, saying that's why he suggested she disguise herself as a teacher instead of a student. Maylin puffed up her chest, proudly boasting about her flawless skin and how easily Japanese high school girls pull off their uniform look. Alfheim told her to stop being so extra, which made Maylin glare at him intensely. Shota, with his arms crossed, interrupted their bickering, stating he knew nothing about Japanese customs or the local area. He suggested they talk about the mission details properly starting from tomorrow, and everyone agreed. The next day, Alfheim revealed their main mission, to infiltrate Manhwa Academy and protect a female student named Sakurako Kyujo. He showed Shota several pictures of Sakurako, explaining it was a high-stakes protection detail. Shota was surprised they were protecting a high school girl, but Alfheim clarified that Sakurako was no ordinary student. She was the daughter of a powerful global military corporation's president. Alfheim asked if Shota had heard of Konohana Heavy Industries, hinting at the company's significant influence. He explained that this hidden Japanese military company made everything from rockets to assault rifles and was reportedly using neighboring countries to illegally export weapons, breaking global rules. Alfheim added that they recently got information that President Kyujo was sending his company's weapons to communist countries. He warned that if this was true, it could lead to global destruction, making it a very serious situation. Maylin chimed in, saying there were rumors that President Kyujo was either being threatened because of his daughter or simply being greedy. Many organizations worldwide were interested in this situation, and they were all targeting Sakurako Kyujo to get information. A dark vision showed what could happen to Sakurako if she fell into the wrong hands, highlighting the grave danger she was in. Shota understood his task. He needed to be assigned to Sakurako's class, act as her monitor and guard, and also try to get information about her father from her. He realized that finding evidence of the illegal arms exports was crucial to outmaneuver the other groups involved. However, Shota then declared that he was not the right person for this particular job. Both Alfheim and Maylin looked completely shocked, asking him why he felt that way. Shota explained that he had been on battlefields his whole life and had no experience whatsoever in dealing with women like Sakurako. Alfheim sighed dramatically, expressing his disappointment at Shota's lack of social skills. Maylin suggested that Shota had a good face, so maybe Sakurako would just fall for him on her own. A possibility Shota decided to keep in mind, however small. With the mission details now clear, the team finished their meeting, leaving a pizza box and some drinks on the table. The next morning, Shota waited by a bus stop. He had been told that Sakurako Kyujo caught her bus from the previous stop. Alfheim and Maylin were in a car nearby, monitoring. They confirmed that Sakurako would be on the 8:21 a.m. bus to Manhwa Academy. Shota found himself on a very crowded bus and wondered if people in Japan rode such packed buses every single morning. He observed that the Japanese must be very patient to handle such daily commutes, and then noticed Sakurako Kyujo standing right beside him. Shota looked at her, finally seeing his target in person and realizing this was Sakurako Kyujo, the student he was assigned to protect. The main character, Echizen Shota, is on an important mission to protect a student named Sakurako Kyujo at Otori Academy. His journey starts as he watches the bus to Otori Academy arrive, ready to begin his undercover assignment. Sakurako Kyujo gets on the bus from an earlier stop, and the team notes that the bus leaves for the academy exactly at 8:27. On the crowded bus, Sakurako stands looking a bit embarrassed, while Echizen observes her closely. He confirms to himself that this is indeed Sakurako Kyujo as the bus continues its route through the city. The bus is packed with people, and Sakurako looks increasingly uncomfortable amidst the crowd. Echizen initially wonders if Sakurako is running a fever or has a new virus, but his partner, Wolf Eye, questions his observation. Wolf Eye corrects him, saying that Sakurako isn't feverish, she just seems embarrassed by something. From their monitoring post, Echizen's team wonders what is going on inside the bus to make Sakurako so uneasy. It becomes clear that a man is discreetly touching Sakurako inappropriately on the crowded bus. The team instantly recognizes this as a classic case of molestation, confirming that Sakurako is being harassed. Echizen watches Sakurako's distress, realizing the situation is worse than he first thought. He concludes that dealing with this molester is also part of his protection duty, especially as the man seems to be getting bolder. The molester has a creepy smile, while Sakurako looks on the verge of tears, silently wishing for someone to help her. Echizen recalls that touching someone without permission is illegal in Japan, and a stern expression crosses his face. Without hesitation, he quickly grabs the molester's arm, stopping him from further harassment. Sakurako looks up at Echizen, her eyes wide with surprise and relief, as he stands up for her. This is a chapter title card, indicating the start of the current chapter. Sakurako thanks him shyly, but Echizen tells her not to worry about it, already thinking about her safety. He then tells her that in a real battlefield, no one will help her, and she has to fight back herself, making his team comment on his usual intense talk. As the bus suddenly stops, the molester, shocked by Echizen's intervention, makes a run for it. The molester is furious that he can't get back on the bus, his reason for living seemingly stolen by Echizen. Echizen swiftly gets off the bus, telling his team he will go grab the escaping molester, while Sakurako watches him. He quickly chases after the molester through the streets, showing his incredible speed. With a powerful strike, Echizen takes down the molester in an instant. Sakurako is left surprised on the bus as Echizen corners the molester in a narrow alleyway. The molester glares at Echizen, complaining that the self-righteous do-gooder stole his reason for living. Echizen calmly asks if that's better than losing his life, prompting the molester to threaten him with a weapon. The molester pulls out a stun gun, but Echizen shows no fear and lunges forward. He quickly intercepts the stun gun, grabbing the molester's hand midair. With another swift and decisive move, Echizen takes down the molester, rendering him helpless. He then calls out to Wolf Eye through his earpiece, instructing them to contact the police as the molester has been dealt with. Wolf Eye complains about Echizen making a scene on their first day, reminding him this is an undercover escort mission. Echizen's eyes glow red, and he clenches his fist, suggesting he believes choosing him for such a mission might have been a mistake. He clarifies that his specialty is destruction and assassination, to which his team assures him they will back him up. They agree that the mission will be tough, but insist they have no choice but to carry it out as a team. Echizen finally arrives at Otori Academy, a grand, beautiful building adorned with cherry blossoms. He checks his watch, noting it's 9:50 a.m. and reports his arrival to his team, asking if there are any issues. His team tells him he is very late because of the molester incident and instructs him to apologize to the principal immediately. Echizen is clueless, asking what a principal is, which utterly shocks his team. He explains that he was raised by South American guerrillas and never attended anything like a school. His team clarifies that a principal is like a commander, probably a colonel in military terms, which makes Echizen nod in understanding. He resolves to treat this colonel with the utmost respect as he heads towards the principal's office. Echizen knocks politely on the door marked principal's office and is told to come in. He pushes open the door, ready to face the academy's commander. Inside, a kind-looking old man with glowing glasses greets him warmly, saying they have been expecting him. Echizen is confused, expecting a stern colonel, but finds the principal to be a cheerful, elderly man. He feels no intimidation from the principal, and his team jokes that he's just a Japanese principal, while the principal compliments Echizen's handsome looks. Echizen wonders if the principal is a master of martial arts, but his team's intel reveals the principal's hobbies are surprisingly limited to bonsai. Bonsai? Echizen questions, then realizes he needs to present his business card. As Echizen reaches into his breast pocket, his team freaks out, mistakenly thinking he might be pulling out a gun. The principal watches with a smile as Echizen retrieves something. Echizen pulls out a small, square piece of paper, which puzzles him at first. His team reminds him it's a Japanese business card and warns him to present it properly with both hands, or there won't be a next time. Echizen holds the business card with both hands, ready to make a proper introduction. He formally salutes and introduces himself as Echizen Shouta to Principal Tazaki, sincerely apologizing for his tardiness. The principal, however, waves off the apology kindly, telling him not to worry. Echizen is deeply moved by the principal's benevolence, but the principal quickly clarifies that he's not benevolent at all. The principal explains that the police reported a molester incident, and Echizen confirms he apprehended the scoundrel himself, earning the principal's praise. The principal then assigns Mr. Echizen as the assistant homeroom teacher for Class 2B and asks him to introduce himself to the students. Echizen accidentally calls him Colonel again, quickly correcting himself to Principal, which the principal finds amusing. Etchison Shouta, the new assistant teacher, confidently declares he's heading to Class 2B. His team, monitoring him through the art teacher's office camera, comments on his cluelessness and double-checks if he only brought a revolver to school. Etchison confirms he didn't bring any heavy weapons like assault rifles or C4 explosives to school. He reflects on how peaceful Japan seems as he walks through the academy halls. Upon reaching Class 2B, his team reminds the legendary mercenary to behave and act like a proper teacher. He takes a deep breath, mentally preparing himself for his new role. Etchison stands at the classroom door, his expression serious and determined. He recalls his perfect record of clearing every mission without a single defeat, ready to tackle this new challenge. The new teacher, Etchison, just arrived at Class 2B, ready to start his new job. Someone tells him to come inside as they are already seated. Inside, the classroom was full of students, and one of them teased the new teacher, calling him a legendary mercenary. He quietly said he would try to act like a teacher. The teacher had a serious look, thinking about his past missions where he always succeeded. For him, giving up was never an option. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in his unusual life as a teacher. He walked confidently into the classroom, ready to face whatever came next in this new mission. Some male students found his arrival boring, but one girl immediately noticed how handsome he was. Many other girls also started gushing over him, admiring his good looks and strong build. They compared him to a famous actor and found him incredibly attractive. The girls instantly bombarded him with personal questions about his favorite food, his type, and if he dated younger women. Another student observed the chaos, noting that he expected the new teacher to be popular, but not this popular. The purple-haired girl thought about the main target, Princess Kyuju Sakurako, remembering how the teacher had protected her earlier. Sakurako, the girl he protected, was now blushing, clearly showing she had feelings for him. This was seen as a love flag. The purple-haired girl explained that a love flag meant Sakurako had fallen for him and advised him to use this to his advantage. Before he could think more about it, the other teacher reminded him to introduce himself properly to the class. He introduced himself as Etchison Shouta, the new assistant homeroom teacher for Class 2B, starting that day. He then announced he would teach English but could also speak 5 other languages, inviting interested students to ask him during breaks. The girls were even more impressed, finding him incredibly cool and wanting him to teach them languages too. One male student grumbled, wondering what was so great about him, noticing even Sakurako was blushing. Another student asked if he had any hobbies, to which he simply replied, sniping. He added weight training as another hobby, then quickly ended his introduction, leaving the disappointed girls wanting more. The angry male student clenched a paper, annoyed that everyone laughed when *** mentioned weight training as a hobby. He suddenly declared that inner qualities mattered more than good looks, rushing forward with anger. As he charged, a crumpled paper ball flew through the air, aimed right at Etchison's head. But Etchison, without even turning, easily caught the paper ball with one hand. The attacking student was stunned, realizing Etchison had caught the paper he threw so effortlessly. Etchison then calmly walked over and dropped the crumpled paper into a trash can, making some students wonder if he was a ninja. He just gave a small smirk and corrected them, saying he was a mercenary. The purple-haired girl added that he was a legendary mercenary, as Etchison walked out of the classroom. 2 other students talked about him, with one questioning if he could be more discreet, and the other saying it was fine since he had caught Sakurako's attention. Later, students came looking for Etchison in the faculty office, but couldn't find him, even though he was seen lifting dumbbells just a moment ago. Sakurako also appeared, looking for him with a question about class, wondering how many times he had disappeared like this. She wondered aloud where Etchison-sensei was, as someone's voice called out Wolf-I. The purple-haired student, Maylene, told the art teacher that Sakurako was looking for Etchison, saying they had a problem and she was heading to his location. Maylene didn't waste any time and dramatically jumped out of a window to get there quickly. She landed perfectly on the ground, ready to rush to the scene. She quickly started running, determined to reach Etchison's location as fast as possible. The art teacher also ran out, saying he was on his way too. Meanwhile, the angry student from earlier was holding a baseball bat, confronting Etchison outside. Etchison asked why he had been called out, especially since the student mentioned Kyuju Sakurako. The student swung his bat, and Etchison calmly asked if he was part of the baseball club, mentioning that Japanese players often shave their heads. The student got even angrier, yelling at Etchison and declaring himself the Go Home Club's slugger. Etchison looked confused by the Go Home Club title, but the student just brushed it off, saying he simply didn't like him. When Echizen asked why, the student angrily explained that he hated the way Sekirako looked at him, completely mesmerized. Echizen understood it was jealousy and told the student he had no intention of playing baseball, especially since they didn't even have a ball. The student screamed that he wasn't there to play baseball, he was going to bash Echizen's head in. With that, he swung the baseball bat with all his might towards Echizen. Echizen easily dodged the swings, even giving the student tips like needing to step in more to reach him. He stayed calm and advised the student to watch his opponent and perhaps actually learn how to bat in a real baseball club. The student yelled back, "Shut up," and prepared for another desperate swing. The bat cut through the air, leaving a bright red trail. But Echizen, with lightning speed, caught the bat right in its path. Then he swiftly kicked the student's leg, making him lose balance and look shocked. Echizen's expression remained stern and focused during the quick fight. He followed up with a powerful punch directly to the student's face, sending him flying. The student was knocked out on the ground, and Echizen calmly declared the game over as a drone observed from above. Malin and the art teacher finally arrived, surprised to see Echizen had already beaten up a student. They reminded him that this was the modern Ryu era. Echizen just gave a confident and slightly smug look. He simply said it was educational guidance, leaving Malin and the art teacher with exasperated sighs. The school hallway was quiet as the final bell was about to ring, signaling the end of the school day. Soon, students started coming out, some looking worried and others just wanting to go home. Many were looking at something shocking ahead. There, the new teacher, Mr. Echizen, was carrying an unconscious blonde student over his shoulder, looking completely serious. Students were whispering, realizing it was Fuse from the second year. They thought he must have been messing around and got himself hurt. A purple-haired girl laughed, saying Fuse just fell down and the teacher was making a big fuss about nothing. Mister! Some girls were busy swooning over the handsome new teacher. Mister! Inside the nurse's office, the student was placed on a bed. The purple-haired girl, another teacher in an apron, and Mr. The purple-haired girl looked worried, asking Mr. Echizen if he even knew what he had done. Mr. Echizen calmly replied with a simple yeah. He seemed lost in thought, remembering a tough training session under a crescent moon where he got his butt kicked by a boss. The purple-haired girl got really upset, yelling that such training was not allowed in Japan, while Mr. Echizen just smiled smugly. Soon, the principal and other teachers were rushing to the nurse's office, worried about the situation. Someone quickly informed them that many students had witnessed what happened, making the situation even more serious. This was a new chapter, and things were just getting started. The principal and the school nurse hurried into the office, asking if the unconscious student was okay. The nurse wanted to check on him right away. The nurse then asked if the new teacher, Mr. Echizen, was the one who treated the student. Principal Tazaki asked Mr. Echizen directly what exactly happened to the student. Mr. Echizen, the purple-haired girl, and the apron-wearing teacher tried to play it cool, laughing and saying it was nothing at all, confusing the principal. They quickly made up a story, claiming the student slipped on a banana peel, fell, and passed out. The purple-haired girl looked shocked at their made-up excuse. The purple-haired girl added that she didn't see everything clearly, but Mr. Echizen had carried the student all the way to the nurse's office. The nurse, looking at the student's injuries, questioned the banana peel story, saying it wasn't right at all. He declared that he had been a school nurse for 40 years and had a black belt in karate, so he knew this wasn't a slipping injury. He believed the student was hit with the palm strike. The nurse then pointed at Mr. Echizen, asking if he was trained in martial arts. He directly accused Mr. Echizen of hurting the student, and both the purple-haired girl and the apron-wearing teacher jokingly confirmed that Mr. Principal Tazaki was shocked and asked Mr. Echizen if it was true. The purple-haired girl and the apron-wearing teacher panicked, saying the situation was bad, but Mr. Echizen remained calm, stating there was no need to panic. They warned Mr. Echizen that teachers who use violence get fired. The purple-haired girl asked what made him so sure. Mr. Echizen looked intense, showing the powerful intuition of a mercenary. Suddenly, the unconscious student woke up with a loud scream, clearly in great pain. The student clutched his jaw, thinking it had been blown off by a bomb. He wondered if it was a dream and where he was. The nurse quickly told the student that Mr. Echizen, the new teacher, was the one who had hit him and caused his jaw injury. The scared student, still shaking, confirmed with a gasp that it was indeed Mr. Echizen who hit him. The nurse pointed out that the student was clearly scared and in pain, calling it a straightforward case of assault. He announced that he was calling the police right away. However, the student quickly said the nurse was wrong as the nurse struggled to see clearly without his glasses. The student surprisingly said he got the injury from just falling down. The nurse was confused, asking why he was lying when the wound clearly looked like a punch. The student yelled at the nurse to shut up, telling him to mind his own business and calling him a toothless old geezer. The nurse was furious. The enraged nurse vowed not to let the student get away with such disrespect. Meanwhile, as the student walked past Mr. Etchison, he looked back at him with a strange expression. The student left the nurse's office, quietly swearing that Mr. Etchison would pay for what he did. After the student was gone, the apron-wearing teacher told Mr. Etchison he really thought he was in trouble. Mr. Etchison agreed, saying that both mercenaries and delinquents value their reputation, which is very important to them. He explained that delinquents, like mercenaries, also care a lot about saving face and how they are seen by others. The purple-haired girl noted that Mr. Etchison had clearly figured out that delinquents also care about things like honor and reputation. She understood that for the student, getting beaten up by a new teacher on his first day would have been a huge blow to his reputation. So, she realized, Mr. Etchison fought him knowing that the student wouldn't want to admit being beaten up. Because of this, it was better for the student to just pretend nothing happened. The apron-wearing teacher praised Mr. The purple-haired girl also realized that Mr. Etchison was no ordinary person, impressed by his understanding of the situation. With the incident resolved, they all decided it was time to go and protect their target, Sakurako Kyujo, whom they called their princess. The purple-haired girl added that if they wasted any more time and the princess got kidnapped, they would end up like the world-famous plumber brothers who were always rescuing princesses. Mr. Etchison looked confused by the mention of world-famous plumbers, and the apron-wearing teacher quickly covered the girl's mouth, saying she shouldn't say any more. As the day ended, the school building was bathed in the warm light of the setting sun. Students started leaving the school, walking home or to their various after-school activities. Inside, a girl with long hair, Sakurako Kujo, carefully took her shoes from her locker. She seemed calm and collected. She placed her outdoor shoes into the locker, preparing to leave the school. Many other students were also in the shoe locker area, changing their shoes and getting ready to head out for the day. Sakurako Kujo walked out of the locker area, blending in with the other students heading toward the exit. As Sakurako walked, someone watched her, quietly thinking her name, Kujo Sakurako. A dark, sinister figure with glowing eyes and a terrifying smile declared that if he could just get his hands on her, the whole world would be his. Meanwhile, Mr. Etchison, the purple-haired girl, and the apron-wearing teacher rushed forward, determined to protect Sakurako Kujo from any danger. Students were busy at the shoe lockers, getting ready to leave school for the day. Sakurako was also there, changing her shoes before heading home. Many students walked through the school hallway, getting ready to go home. Among them was Sakurako Kujo, a girl who seemed to be the focus of someone's attention. A shadowy figure with glowing, intense eyes smiles widely, thinking that if he can just get her, the world will change. She is seen adjusting her shoe, getting ready to head home after school. Dreamy thoughts seem to surround her as she prepares to leave. They found Sakurako at the first-floor shoe lockers, where students change their shoes. She was getting ready to leave for the day. A man thought about how strange the Japanese custom of indoor shoes was. He wondered why people bothered with them when the place was cleaned regularly anyway. A man wondered why they couldn't wear outdoor shoes inside when the place was cleaned often. A woman holding binoculars believed he simply didn't understand the culture of Asia. The agent stood with a fierce look, his eyes glowing red with intense focus. He was ready to take action against anyone who dared to threaten Sakurako. The schoolgirl walked out, leaving the building and heading outside. Someone was watching her closely, giving the command to begin pursuit. A serious voice suddenly told the two young people to stop moving. They looked very surprised and wondered what was happening. A floating drone noticed something was off inside the school building. All the other students were leaving, but one boy stood perfectly still by the shoe lockers. A male student stood hidden directly behind Sakurako's shoe locker. He wore a creepy smile and held his phone, watching the scene unfold. Someone celebrates a successful mission, having placed a secret device. This special peephole lets them take all the pictures they want without anyone getting suspicious. A strange boy with glasses walked through the school, looking very smug and thinking he was a genius. From a balcony above, some people watched him, noticing how suspicious he looked. Once Sakurako had left, the student quickly grabbed her indoor shoes. He held them up with a huge, creepy smile, clearly very excited. A student quickly grabbed Sakurako's shoes from her locker. The agent watching was surprised to see him take them. The student happily sniffed Sakurako's indoor shoes, enjoying her lingering warmth and scent. He was excited to know her shoe size, feeling like he was collecting her personal data, while others thought he was planning something sinister and needed to be interrogated. The male student was very angry and wanted to interrogate the one who took the shoes, but his teammates told him to leave the person alone, saying he had no hostile intentions. A man looked very confused, asking about something called hentai and saying he had never heard of it. He was then told that hentai is a special Japanese thing and has been known all over the world for a long time. Maylene, now disguised in a school uniform, was ready for her mission to protect Sakurako. She watched the beautiful Sakurako, who always seemed to draw everyone's eyes. The student happily held Sakurako's shoes to his face, clearly enjoying her scent and warmth. Nearby, someone explained that in Japan, there were people who fantasized about cute girls without ever even talking to them. The man in the apron explained that the student was just a hentai, which is a common type of person in Japan who gets excited about cute girls without ever talking to them. Afterward, the student happily floated away, full of joy from his strange hobby. The agent stared at the student with a questioning look. He seemed puzzled by the student's lack of understanding. He still couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. He never thought such a strange person could truly exist in real life. The character charged forward, ready to grab the student for questioning. But then, the student suddenly vanished, leaving the others to wonder if he would be okay, even though he was a legendary mercenary. Someone asked about the plan for Sakurako's safety. Maylene was told she would be Sakurako's bodyguard and could even become her friend if necessary. Maylene smiled and held up her cute mirror, agreeing to the plan. She looked happy and ready to be Sakurako's new bodyguard and friend. Maylene sprinted through the school hallway, ready to begin her mission of protecting Sakurako. She moved quickly and with purpose, preparing for whatever lay ahead. The man with the tablet wondered how their legendary mercenary, who didn't know much about normal life, would handle the situation. Below, a student hurried along the street, seemingly unaware of the eyes watching him. A mysterious person in a dark, hooded outfit stood with their back turned. On the floor nearby, an empty box and a folded jacket lay waiting. A student chuckled quietly to himself, watching from a distance as Sakurako changed her shoes, feeling she was completely open to anything at that moment. He aimed his phone, trying to get a better angle. The boy with the phone frowned, unhappy with his current photo angle of Sakurako. He decided he would try to get a better, secret shot of her later when she was changing. Suddenly, a masked figure appeared, swiftly covering the pervert's head with a bag. This stopped the pervert from taking any more secret pictures. Someone suddenly grabbed the student, telling them not to make a sound or resist. The mysterious person then promised to guarantee the student's life if they stayed quiet and did what they were told. Maylene, with her face covered, gave a soft but firm agreement to the order. She was now fully committed to the mission of protecting Sakurako. The captured student was taken to a dark, hidden room. The mysterious interrogator then began to question him. Someone was tied to a chair with a paper bag over their head, sitting quietly in a dim room. Another person stood over them, ready to begin the interrogation. The hooded figure struck with incredible speed, a blur of motion. The other person, now disarmed, lay bent over on the ground. A person was tied to a chair with a bag over their head, unable to move. Another figure, wearing a mask and a hooded top, held a sharp knife and asked if they were Sakurako Kyuju's classmate. The masked person held a knife to the student's throat, demanding to know which organization hired him. The student looked completely terrified and confused by the question. The interrogator asked which organization hired him, listing big names like the CIA, KGB, MI6, and Mossad as possibilities. He also mentioned that in Japan, it would be the Cabinet Intelligence. A mysterious figure, wearing a red hooded cloak and a black mask, listened intently. The interrogator explained that in Japan, groups like the Cabinet Intelligence and Research Office or a special military squadron would handle such matters. The hooded person held a knife to the student, who looked terrified and confused. The student wondered if the scary organizations being mentioned were just movie characters, but the interrogator insisted they were real and that he had dealt with them all. The man cried out in terror, insisting he meant no harm to Sakurako even though he was accused of obsessively touching her shoes. He looked utterly horrified as the interrogator warned that anyone who tried to hurt Sakurako would be eliminated. The masked agent questioned the student about applying poison to the shoes, but the student denied it. The agent then suggested that the student was planning to plant explosives in the shoe locker, seeing it as a good place for a trap. The masked person explained that a booby trap is a device hidden in a seemingly harmless object. The student looked very confused by this explanation. The student cried out, thinking that getting explosives in modern Japan was impossible. However, the masked man simply said that was only true if you were a civilian. The masked interrogator held a sharp object close to the tied-up student's neck, explaining there was no proof the student was just an ordinary civilian. He was about to find out the truth right then and there. The mysterious figure, with glowing red eyes, held a sharp blade. He warned that he would lightly peel the skin from the neck of the person in front of him. The interrogator explained that he would peel the skin from the man's neck as a way to prove if he was a civilian or an agent. The man looked completely terrified, asking if they were really going to do something so awful. The masked interrogator held a knife, explaining that any reaction would reveal if the tied-up student was an agent. The terrified student cried out that this was just like an old witch trial. Someone held a sharp, broken mirror piece in their gloved hand. They gripped the jagged shard tightly, ready for whatever was next. A person in a purple hood suddenly appeared, leaping down toward the tied-up student. The student sat still, his hands bound behind him. The young man cried, his face twisted in fear and humiliation. He was truly sorry for what he had done. Malin crouched low, thinking about the best angle to get a secret shot in the changing room. She moved carefully, making sure not to make a sound. The agent with dark hair sat in contemplation, his gloved hands resting by his face. His colleague, with lighter hair, walked out of the room through an open doorway in the background. The blonde man gave a thumbs up, happy that the interrogation was over. The other agent understood that the strange student was not a dangerous enemy. The interrogator understood that a trained person would not have lost control like that. He was surprised to learn there were really people who found joy in sniffing a girl's indoor shoes. The agent felt a little bad about what they had done to the young student. Even so, they learned that Japan might be a small country, but it seemed to hold a unique superpower in such matters. The agent quickly moved, saying they needed to go back and protect Sakurako. Soon after, another voice excitedly called out Sakurako's name, confirming she was nearby. Sakurako turned her head around, looking surprised. She must have heard something that made her wonder what was happening. Malin excitedly greeted Sakurako, saying she knew they would be going home in the same direction. Sakurako looked a little surprised by Malin's sudden appearance. Someone in tactical gear lay low, aiming a device while wearing headphones and dark glasses. From their hidden spot, they watched the city's buildings reflected in nearby mirrors. Someone held a sniper rifle, aiming it carefully. The target was now in their sights, ready to be acted upon. Someone called out Sakurako's name loudly, making her turn around in surprise. It was Iris, her friend, who was happy to see Sakurako walking the same way home. Iris seemed quite excited about their chance meeting. Meanwhile, a sniper was secretly set up on a rooftop, aiming his long rifle. The sniper confirmed that his target was in sight, which included Sakurako and Iris. He noticed someone, who looked like a friend, approaching his target. The sniper knew they couldn't mess this up and needed to be extra careful. Sakurako and Iris walked together, laughing and chatting happily. Iris, who had grown up overseas, asked Sakurako about the trendy makeup styles in Japan. Sakurako replied that she wouldn't know, as makeup was strictly against the rules at their Otori Academy, which Iris found completely unfair. Iris complained that Japanese schools were the worst for making students all look the same without any personality. Sakurako then asked if students overseas were allowed to wear makeup at school. Iris excitedly explained that makeup and regular clothes were totally fine, and some kids even had rainbow hair or brought illegal substances like marijuana. Sakurako was shocked to hear about marijuana, thinking it was only something seen in movies, and was reminded that it's illegal in Japan. Suddenly, a car sped by, splashing a huge amount of water. A blonde man quickly pulled Sakurako out of the way, saving her from getting completely soaked. Sakurako apologized to the man for getting him wet, while Iris looked on with a sour expression. Iris realized that Sakurako had never met this new man, who then called Sakurako princess. Sakurako quickly corrected him, saying she was just a normal person, as the man winked at her. The man insisted that every woman was a princess created that way by God. Then he took Sakurako's hand gently. He leaned down and kissed her hand, leaving Sakurako completely surprised. Before anyone could react, Iris suddenly kicked the man in the face with a powerful blow. Iris declared that in Japan, kissing someone without permission was considered sexual assault, knocking the man out cold. When he woke up, she argued that he wasn't Italian or French, to which he claimed he was born in Italy and raised in France. Sakurako remembered him saying he was Spanish just the other day, and Iris and the man started bickering like an old couple. Sakurako smiled, finding their constant teasing and fighting quite funny, like siblings. Iris then asked the man why he was there and where Pretty Boy was, and he replied that something urgent had come up. This was the 7th chapter of Handgun class. Back on the rooftop, the sniper still had Sakurako, Iris, and the new man in his scope observing them. Unnoticed by the sniper, another person had quietly climbed up to the rooftop. This new person was the main male character, his eyes glowing red with a fierce determination. He held a handgun that was smoking, indicating he had just fired a shot. The original sniper was now lying dead on the ground, blood pooling around his head, his rifle next to him. The main character looked down at the lifeless sniper, confirming the kill. He thought about how serious the enemy organization must be, sending even a sniper for the job. He stood over the dead sniper, deep, and thought about the situation. He wondered if a rival group was trying to kidnap Sakurako. Below, the city lights twinkled as cars moved along the busy road. The main character stood on the rooftop, looking out over the city after taking care of the sniper. As night fell, the scene shifted. The Grand Kujo family mansion, where Sakurako lived, stood majestically in the evening darkness. Inside, a beautiful pink dress, fit for a princess, was displayed. Sakurako was sitting on her luxurious bed, surrounded by plush toys, looking sad in her pajamas. She let out a sigh, still looking unhappy. Her maid, Kani, entered the room pushing a cart with tea and delicate snacks. Kani noticed Sakurako's sad expression and asked if something was bothering her. Sakurako looked up as Kani approached with the elegant tea service. Kani gently reminded Sakurako to call servants by their names, as the master had specifically asked her to remind the young lady. Sakurako quickly apologized and said Kani, while the maid gave her a stern glance. Kani then smiled, pleased that Sakurako had used her name. She reminded Sakurako that as a daughter of the Kujo family, she must never forget her pride. Kani explained that the Kujo family was a noble line from a long time ago, and Sakurako needed to behave like a true lady of the house. Sakurako acknowledged her maid's words, looking a bit down. Then Sakurako shyly asked Kani if she had ever been in love. Kani was surprised by the sudden question about love. Kani clarified if Sakurako meant romantic love, not just a fondness for something like the carp in the pond. Noticing Sakurako's embarrassed reaction, Kani understood Sakurako's recent sighs were about this, but then she stated that a Kujo family member could never fall for a commoner. Sakurako quickly denied being in love, while a shadowy image of the handsome male character appeared, looking quite pleased. Kani then looked at Sakurako with a serious expression. But then, Kani's face lit up, and she happily announced that there was no family rule forbidding love, so they could be together. Sakurako was surprised, and Kani added that as a woman herself, she would always support young ladies in love. Kani offered her hand to Sakurako, showing her full support. Sakurako excitedly asked, "Really?" And Kani promised her support within reason. Sakurako was overjoyed, jumping up and down with happiness, as Kani watched her with a fond smile. However, Kani's support had one condition, as the scene quickly changed to bullets flying from a handgun. The male character from earlier was practicing at a shooting range, aiming his gun with a serious face. The condition was that the gentleman Sakurako chose had to be a reasonable man. This chapter opens with a special announcement. Various scan groups have teamed up to bring readers many news stories and faster updates. Right after that, the story starts with a bang, literally, as bullets fly out of a gun, hitting targets precisely. A man, looking super focused, holds his revolver steady, aiming with great precision. He quickly reloads his weapon. Then we see him firing multiple guns at once, showing off his incredible skill. Many guns fire non-stop, and you can see bright flashes as the bullets find their marks. The targets get riddled with bullets, proving how incredibly accurate his shots are, one after another. After all the shooting, empty bullet casings are scattered all over the floor. This is episode 8 of the story where all this intense action is taking place. Our hero, Kurenai, is at a firing range, and some other agents are watching him closely. One guy shouts that all Kurenai's shots are perfect bullseyes, but a girl named Malin points out they are a bit to the left. Malin cleverly explains that the human heart is on the left, so hitting there is actually the perfect shot. The guy looks very surprised. The guy quickly says it was just a joke and still praises Shouta Kurenai for being amazing, saying he could win a gold medal in the Olympics. But Kurenai just brushes off the compliments, saying he has no interest in amateur competitions. He states proudly that he is a professional and then asks if they have found any information about the enemy organization. The other guy, who is the demolitions expert, shrugs, saying that getting intel is not his job. He tells Kurenai to ask Malin, their intel specialist, who looks a bit annoyed while sitting at her desk. Malin deliberately looks away, a lollipop in her mouth, while the two men stare at her, waiting for an answer. Malin stands up, throwing her hands in the air, frustrated that even after using all their resources, they haven't found any solid leads. Kurenai seriously mentions that the organization targeting Sakurako managed to use a sniper against them. He gets a very intense look on his face, his eyes glowing red, as if remembering something important. He flashes back to himself, holding a gun, ready for action, with smoke rising around him. In the flashback, a dead sniper lies on the ground with his rifle, blood pooled around his head. Kurenai stands over the fallen sniper on a rooftop, clearly having been the one to take him down. Kurenai thinks to himself that the sniper was a trained soldier and wonders how such a specialized rifle could be brought into Japan easily. They examine crime scene photos, including one of the dead sniper on the floor. More pictures show another victim and the sniper rifle carefully packed inside its case. Back in the present, Kurenai looks intently at the photos spread on the table, while the others watch him. He picks up a small piece of evidence and identifies the sniper rifle as a Remington M700. He uses a knife to point at the rifle in a photo, explaining that it's a popular American model released in 1992. Another agent explains it's a classic rifle still widely used. The demolitions guy wonders if it was a Dragunov, which would suggest Eastern Bloc involvement. Malin angrily calls him an idiot, asking if he thinks a killer would openly carry a bloody axe. She even holds an axe herself, looking very fierce. Malin playfully hits the demolitions expert with the axe, making him yelp in pain. Kurenai realizes they can't trace the organization just from the weapon's origin. Kurenai holds a remote, saying they simply have to be ready to react to whatever the enemy does next. The other two are still recovering from Malin's playful attack. They watch a monitor showing live surveillance of Sakurako, and Kurenai says they must continue guarding her. Below, a military leader is shown. He also mentions they need to wait for contact from his father-in-law, who they call the last boss. As they continue watching the screens, the demolitions expert suddenly looks extremely shocked by something he sees. He lets out a big cry, looking at a surveillance feed where a high school girl is changing her clothes. He excitedly points at the screen, calling shout as Kurenai's attention to the high school girls changing on the monitor. He even exclaims Tres bien, as he stares at the girl's underwear on the screen, thoroughly enjoying the view. He shouts that it's a guaranteed victory, completely thrilled by what he's watching on the surveillance feed. Suddenly, Malin's hand moves incredibly fast and grabs something from the excited man. She's now a dark, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes, holding the remote, while the demolitions expert is utterly shocked and begs her to calm down. Malin simply says it's marksmanship training with a sly look, as the guy screams in protest, clearly unhappy about losing his fun. Malin has changed the channel to a please stand by screen, leaving the demolitions expert fuming, while Kurenai stands deep in thought. Kurenai remembers a past mission when his adoptive father told him to infiltrate a prestigious high school as a teacher. He recalls tough missions where he had to destroy frontline enemy bases, fighting fiercely with a rifle in a fiery battlefield. He also remembers a mission to assassinate the enemy's chief of staff, moving silently and taking down targets with his handgun. Kurenai flashes back to more bloody scenes of intense combat, taking down many enemies with rapid gunfire. The brutal fight continues, showing him fiercely eliminating multiple targets in a chaotic battlefield. With a determined look and blood splattered on him, Kurenai keeps firing his handgun, the muzzle flash brightly lighting up the darkness. His face is grim and stained with blood, but his eyes remain sharp and focused, showing his unwavering resolve. He thinks about how his father always gave him clear missions with definite goals and final objectives before. But this time, he feels like the mission's objective is very vague and unclear. He looks at Sakurako's image on the screen, wondering if just protect Kyuji Sakurako is all he really needs to do. Kurenai looks up, lost in thought, pondering, "Father, what exactly do you want from me this time?" The scene changes to a dark, ruined city under a cloudy evening sky, with a flag flying over a destroyed building. Some soldiers are celebrating a successful mission around a burning crate, shouting that the suppression is complete and looking forward to drinks. They chat and joke about women and alcohol, one even making fun of another whose wife apparently left him. One soldier remarks on how they get so excited after such a small fight, then asks where the last boss is. Another replies he's probably inside, taking a piss. The soldier who asked about the boss stands outside the large, old, ruined building. He goes inside and asks the last boss if anything is wrong, since they are ready to leave. The last boss seems deep in thought. The last boss stands silently before a beautiful, glowing statue of a woman holding a child, bathed in ethereal light within the ruined structure. The last boss, heavily armed with various weapons, turns and walks away from the statue, his silhouette disappearing into the shadows. The sky was filled with dark smoke, showing that a big fight had just ended. Big planes crashed to the ground, exploding in huge flames all around. From a very young age, his life was nothing but war and battles. He had to do whatever it took to survive, even eating raw snakes, his face stained with blood. Blood often dripped down, a common sight in his harsh life. One day, a tough-looking man, a legendary mercenary commander, found him, taking him under his wing. He looked up with determination, ready to learn whatever he needed to survive. Under his adoptive father's care, he began his training in a makeshift camp. His adoptive father handed him a revolver, teaching him how to use it. With bandages covering his injuries, the young boy held the gun, his eyes sharp and serious. He was raised by his adoptive father, a strong and experienced warrior. Soon he too became a fierce fighter, making the battlefields run red with blood. He learned to kill, becoming very good at it in the chaos of war. He kept fighting, moving through different battlegrounds, from destroyed cities to thick jungles, always with his adoptive father nearby. He lost count of how many times he was covered in the blood of others. He became a hardened soldier, his eyes glowing red from all the fighting. Before he even knew it, he was leading many soldiers, respected and feared. He stood tall, holding a red flag, a symbol of his command. Because of all the blood and fire he brought to the battlefield, everyone started calling him Crimson. He ruled the battlefield with a fiery hand, dominating every fight. But deep down, he worried that his own violent nature, like those crimson flames, might one day burn him to ashes. He looked at the huge pile of skulls and bones, a reminder of all the lives lost. His hands, dripping with blood, twisted in a gesture of pain amidst the endless bones. The pile of skulls grew even larger beneath his feet, a chilling testament to his past. This was the story of Handgun Class, Chapter 9. Suddenly, he woke up, gasping for air from the intense dream. His eyes shot open and he sat up, revealing a very muscular body. He immediately started his morning workout, doing push-ups and lifting weights. He continued his intense training, sweating, his face determined. Just then, the door opened and a blonde-haired guy walked in, looking surprised. The blonde guy saw him working out naked and complained, "A naked man, first thing in the morning." He joked that he now needed to go on a date with 6 beautiful women just to cleanse his eyes, blaming his friend. He then teased his friend about his mission, saying he was good at it and would probably finish it in 2 days, to which his friend replied he could do it in 1 night. The teacher, now dressed, asked if his friend had just barged in to say all that. His friend then admitted he was just worried that their legendary mercenary might be having weird dreams. He mentioned the big difference between the battlefield and Japan, then suggested they eat breakfast and head to school. The teacher just smiled, agreeing with a simple yeah. He looked sharp in his suit, adjusting his tie, ready for the day ahead. Soon they arrived at the school, a beautiful building under a clear blue sky. The school entrance, adorned with cherry blossoms, looked peaceful. He was heading to Class 2B. Inside the classroom, he was the new English teacher, standing in front of students who were busy taking notes. He opened his book, ready to teach, while a group of girls in the front row looked completely smitten. The girls were all giggling, finding him very handsome and wishing they could have English class all day. But he wasn't just a teacher, he had infiltrated the school to protect a certain high school girl. He noticed a girl named Sakurako blushing, finding it cute, while another girl smirked knowingly. Meanwhile, a student named Fuse-kun, a chubby guy with curly hair, was annoyed by the teacher's popularity, thinking he should be the popular one based on his inner self. He felt like everyone was ignoring what truly mattered, focusing only on looks. Fuse-kun sat at his desk, glaring, completely irritated by the teacher. The teacher turned to write on the blackboard, making the girls sigh with admiration, while Fuse-kun continued to seethe with anger. The girls were completely charmed by their handsome teacher. Later, during a break, Fuse-kun walked into the school washroom. He leaned against the window, frustrated, thinking that nothing about this was fun. He kept thinking about the bastard teacher, feeling angry and flinching at his own thoughts. Suddenly, Moki, another student, walked in and spoke to Fuse-kun, noticing how angry he seemed. Fuse-kun was annoyed to see Moki, asking what he wanted, but Moki said he was on his side. Fuse-kun scoffed, pointing out that Moki had no friends, which Moki admitted was true. But Mogi then showed a sly smile, revealing his true asset. He proudly announced that he had a lot of money, being the son of a construction company president, which made Fuse-kun call him a lucky bastard. Mogi then proposed combining his financial power with Fuse-kun's connections. He suggested they hire all the delinquents in the school to beat up the annoying new teacher, asking if that wouldn't be fun. Fuse-kun took a drag from his cigarette, considering Mogi's words. He then shook Moga's hand, agreeing that it was a damn interesting idea. Soon, delinquents all over the school started receiving messages from Fuse, surprised and excited about getting paid for a fight. They thought it sounded like fun and quickly agreed to join in, some even getting on their motorcycles. A large group of delinquents on motorcycles sped through the streets, ready for action. They were all geared up, heading toward the school. Meanwhile, the teacher finished his class, completely unaware of the trouble that was heading his way. Otori Academy stood grandly under a clear sky, surrounded by beautiful cherry blossoms. Students began arriving, ready for their day. A city bus drove past the school, while many students walked along the pavement, heading inside for their classes. It was a typical morning commute. Among the students, Sekirako Kyuju walked gracefully, captivating everyone around her with her beauty and charm. She was truly a sight to behold. Other students watched her with awe, calling her too cute and praising her small face and amazing body. They wondered if she was a real angel. Meanwhile, a small drone flew high above, capturing the scene as a large white truck drove by. This was chapter 10 of their story. Inside a control room, two people watched Sakurako on a big screen. The man remarked on her usual elegance, while the woman admitted Sakurako always had a certain class about her. The woman felt a bit frustrated, admitting Sakurako was a tiny bit above her, which made the man chuckle. She then worried that Sakurako might be too careless. She explained that Sakurako was a target for terrorists, yet she traveled to school alone like any other student. This made her extremely vulnerable. The man reminded her that they were there precisely to guard Sakurako, emphasizing their mission to protect her. He mentioned that Sakurako was the daughter of the president of Kabana Heavy Industries. Otori Academy had a mix of students, and cars were not allowed, so Sakurako had to take the bus to school like everyone else. He added that the school's main idea was independence and self-reliance, meaning students should learn common sense by mixing with all kinds of people. He showed her a tablet, explaining that Sakurako's father wanted her to attend an exclusive all-girls school. But Sakurako insisted on coming to Otori Academy by herself. The man found her a bit troublesome, noting that she effortlessly charmed every man just by walking past them. Her popularity was undeniable. The woman then pointed out that their prince was just the same, implying another person had a similar captivating aura. The man agreed with her observation. The camera focused on a pair of shiny brown shoes walking, building up the arrival of this prince. Echizen Shouta Sensei, the new English teacher, walked confidently, shining brightly under the sun. His appearance commanded attention. Many female students lined up, excitedly waving and cheering for him as he walked past. He was extremely popular among them. Two girls gushed about Shouta Sensei, saying his handsome face looked like it belonged in a textbook. They were completely smitten by him. More students chimed in, calling him incredibly handsome and a walking cultural heritage. The two security agents believed that if times were different, Shouta and Sakurako would make a perfect royal couple. The woman in the control room sighed, saying that a prince and princess in love always face challenges. They watched a drone fly towards Shouta. She then told her partner to point the drone camera directly at Shouta, preparing to get a closer look at whatever was coming. He quickly agreed. Shouta continued walking down an alley, appearing calm and focused, with a few cats nearby. He seemed unaware of any trouble. The drone flew ahead, getting into position above the alley. It was ready to capture the upcoming events. Below, a group of students had gathered, looking up, waiting for Shouta. The tension in the air was palpable. It was a large group of young men, many with tough expressions, indicating they were ready for a confrontation. Shouta approached the waiting group, his expression neutral, seemingly unfazed by their presence. Fuse, the student Shouta had dealt with before, stepped forward with a sinister smile, greeting him in a drawn-out, mocking way. Shouta calmly greeted everyone back. In the control room, the man, recognizing Fuse, yelled that no one should respond to him normally. A huge gang of students, some on motorcycles and many holding bats, stood waiting for Shouta. They formed a clear challenge. The control room displayed multiple views of the scene, showing Fuse's large group confronting Shouta. The woman realized it was Fuse, the student Shouta had beaten up the other day. She noted that Fuse had gathered his friends, which was a smart move since he couldn't win alone. But she still felt there was a problem with his plan. The man confidently declared that it didn't matter how many delinquents showed up. They were facing Crimson, the legendary mercenary. The drone hovered high above, capturing the entire scene under a bright, sunny sky. The situation was about to heat up. Shouta, keeping his cool, asked Fuse if he wanted another lesson and suggested they go somewhere quiet. He calmly adjusted his tie. Fuse responded with a sneer, saying he wouldn't let Shouter ruin the upcoming festival by breaking his nose. He was clearly confident in his group's numbers. The scene moved to a secluded riverbank, a wide-open grassy area away from the school, perfect for a confrontation. Shouter stood alone, facing the large group of delinquents. Leaves swirled around him, adding to the dramatic tension. The group surrounded Shouter, and someone noted the unfair odds. It was 20 against 1. Fuse spread his arms wide, boasting that Shouter couldn't possibly win against so many people, no matter how skilled he was. Fuse then mocked Shouter further, telling him to cry, apologize, and even eat dog poop if he wanted forgiveness. He tried to humiliate him. Shouter, still composed, replied that he would rather not hurt students as he was, after all, their teacher. Fuse and his gang burst into laughter, calling Shouter an idiot for thinking he could win. They thought he was just a weak English teacher. Annoyed, Fuse muttered that they were a real pain, then roared, "Get him," signaling his gang to attack. The delinquents, armed with various weapons, charged at Shouter from all directions. Shouter remained calm, watching them approach. Shouter moved swiftly, preparing to defend himself against the onslaught. His shadow stretched long on the grass. With incredible speed and power, Shouter easily took down 2 attackers, sending one flying and kicking another to the ground. He continued fighting, punching one delinquent while dodging another, moving like a blur through the attacking crowd. Shouter delivered a powerful kick that sent another thug tumbling through the air. One stunned delinquent exclaimed that Shouter's movements were not human. With a serious look, Shouter corrected him, stating he was indeed human, but simply trained on the battlefield. This revealed his deadly past. He continued his relentless attack, striking another opponent down with a swift blow. His training was evident in every move. Shouter used a powerful kick to knock another delinquent high into the air. His movements were incredibly precise and impactful. He then flipped another attacker upside down with a well-aimed kick, effortlessly dispatching him. Many of the gang members were now defeated, lying scattered on the ground. The remaining ones were shocked, realizing they had underestimated his strength. Fuse, seeing his friends defeated, became furious. He shouted at them not to give up, insisting it was just one guy, then furiously ordered someone to run Shouter over with a motorcycle. A delinquent on a motorbike revved the engine loudly, preparing to charge at Shouter with the vehicle. The motorcycle sped forward with a roar, aiming straight for Shouter, creating a dangerous and intense moment. Shouter looked up, his eyes sharp and determined, ready to face the incoming motorcycle without a hint of fear. The guy in charge got really angry, telling his men not to panic because it was just one person. He yelled at them to hit the teacher with their bike. A person on a bike came speeding straight toward the teacher, trying to run him over, but the teacher stood firm, ready for anything. The teacher moved quickly, making the bike rider miss him. He was very fast, almost like a blur. The bike zoomed past, and the teacher smoothly spun around, avoiding the attack. He then kicked the rider right off his bike. The teacher delivered a powerful kick, sending the rider flying off the bike and onto the ground with a loud bang. This is chapter 11 of the story. On the open ground by the river, many of the bad guys were already knocked out. A few of them were still standing, looking confused. From a hidden room, people watched on screens, saying how tough the teacher's bike was, like a tank. Meanwhile, the teacher just sat calmly on his bike. The angry boss, Fuse, pointed at the teacher and shouted at his remaining guys to attack him, telling them they needed to earn their keep. The teacher looked on calmly as Fuse tried to gather his confused group, who were still thinking they had enough people to surround and stomp him. The teacher thought to himself that these Japanese troublemakers were not very strong. One of Fuse's friends looked worried and wondered what they should do next. Fuse kept yelling at the teacher, demanding to know what he thought he was doing. The teacher just looked back with a fierce glare. The teacher quickly moved his bike, making a sudden move towards Fuse, who got scared and almost got hit by the wheel. Fuse jumped back, startled, as the teacher stopped his bike. The teacher then told him to be thankful for the good Japanese engineering and its safety features, before asking him what their next plan was. The teacher, with a slight smile, asked the remaining guys what their plan was for their extra activities. The guys looked at each other, not knowing what to do. One by one, the scared gang members started running away, saying they were going back to school and leaving Fuse on his own. Fuse screamed at them to come back, calling them morons for leaving him. But they just yelled back that he hadn't done anything either and was a scared piece of trash. Fuse's last 2 friends told him it was all over and they should just give up. They pointed out that they started with 20 people and now they couldn't win. Suddenly, Fuse, still angry, pointed at the teacher and called him a brute of a teacher, demanding his attention. The teacher calmly asked what the spineless student wanted. Fuse said he understood the teacher could fight, but then challenged his courage. The teacher looked intrigued and asked what he meant. Fuse then declared that they would settle things with this, pointing toward a dangerous obstacle under a bridge where they would race their bikes. The teacher watched Fuse get on his bike, already understanding the challenge. He realized it was a classic game of chicken. A small cartoon showed what a game of chicken meant. Two people drive straight at danger, and the first one to stop is the loser. Fuse was now seriously pushing for this challenge. In the control room, a worried girl quickly tried to talk to the teacher, Shota, asking if he was actually going to accept such a challenge. The girl, still on the communication channel, asked Shota if he was an idiot for thinking of accepting. Shota, sitting on his bike, calmly asked, "And if I am?" The girl was super worried, saying he should just beat them up and be done. She wondered what would happen if he lost this silly game. The girl gasped in frustration. Suddenly, the man in the control room muted Shota's audio. The girl angrily told the man that muting Shota was breaking the rules and that their boss would be mad. She demanded he turn the audio back on, but the man refused with a smile. The girl got really mad and started hitting the man, yelling at him. But he just kept smiling, saying Shota wouldn't lose. The girl yelled that Shota not losing was not the point of her anger, still furious at the man for not letting her talk to him. Back outside, Fuse, full of rage, charged at the teacher with a baseball bat, ready to strike. The teacher, with lightning speed, blocked Fuse's bat with his hand and then punched him hard, knocking him off his feet. Fuse was knocked out cold. The teacher then gently picked him up. The man told the teacher that he was too kind, because Fuse was planning to really hurt him. The teacher just said, maybe. The man questioned why the teacher bothered taking care of Fuse. As the teacher carried Fuse away, he remembered his past, fighting in the jungles of South America. He recalled a very young soldier who joined his unit, who claimed to be 15 but was actually just 11 years old. The image shows the teacher in uniform interacting with the young soldier. The man from the control room asked if he still let an 11-year-old go into combat. The teacher sadly confirmed it, saying the boy had to feed his family, and their boss had allowed it. The man then asked what happened to the young soldier. The teacher, still carrying Fuse, remembered teaching the boy languages while he was in the unit. The teacher remembered the young soldier loving Japan and always wanting to learn Japanese. But then, a sad memory took over. The very next day after the teacher taught him how to say goodbye, the young soldier was killed in action. The teacher stood over his fallen comrade, holding a sign with the Japanese word for goodbye. The teacher looked at Fuse, who he was carrying, realizing how much he looked like that young soldier from his past. It was a haunting resemblance. He explained that he simply couldn't bring himself to abandon Fuse, just like he couldn't abandon the young soldier. He gently laid Fuse down on a bed. Fuse was now resting in a bed, watched over by the teacher, the girl, and the man. They all stood silently, reflecting on the situation. The man looked at the teacher, a new understanding in his eyes, thinking, who would have thought he finally understood the teacher's soft spot for Fuse. It was a gloomy, rainy day under a city bridge where colorful graffiti covered the walls. Raindrops dripped and plopped onto the wet ground as a drone flew overhead, silently watching the scene unfold. A man in a suit stood between two bikers, telling them he would toss a kin to start their race once it hit the ground. Meanwhile, in a control room, a worried girl protested to another man, saying they couldn't just let the teacher do whatever he wanted. She argued that the man was just a mercenary, not a real teacher, but the other guy just dismissed her. The man smiled, suggesting the teacher might become legendary, and said he was curious to see what he would do. The teacher, Shota, with his eyes glowing red, gripped the handlebars of his motorcycle, ready for the challenge. This was the beginning of Chapter 12. The sound of powerful motorcycle engines filled the air, revving loudly. The man tossed the red can high into the air. As the can climbed onto the wet ground, both Shota and Fuse sped off immediately on their bikes. Two men watching the race on a screen were shocked, exclaiming that Fuse was going way too fast and it was dangerous. From above, both Shota and Fuse were seen racing side by side, moving at incredible speed. Shota pushed his bike to its limit, the speedometer needle climbing higher and higher. They were rushing directly toward the solid, graffiti-covered wall under the bridge. The drone camera showed the two speeding closer and closer to the unavoidable wall. The girl from the control room looked terrified, shouting for them to stop. She screamed that Fuse would crash into the wall and die. But someone else just commented on the student's bravery. The man in the control room mentioned that if Shota messed up and a student died, his teaching career would be over, but only if he abandoned him. Shota's eyes glowed with fierce determination as he closed in on Fuse. He knew he couldn't back out now, or he would lose his respect at school forever. Shota gritted his teeth, leaning toward Fuse as they both approached the wall. Fuse was still racing head-on toward the solid concrete barrier. Panic set in for Fuse. He realized he was going to crash and was scared of dying. In a desperate move, Shota launched himself from his own bike towards Fuse. He wrapped his arms around Fuse, pulling him close to shield him from the impact. Both of them tumbled to the ground, skidding across the wet grass as Shota's bike slammed into the wall. Fuse's bike crashed violently into the wall as well, leaving both vehicles mangled under the continuous rain. Shota, with blood streaming from his forehead, slowly got up and immediately asked if Fuse was okay. Fuse lay on the ground, dazed, wondering how he survived and looking at the ruined bikes and the man who saved him. Fuse then realized that Shota had saved him, and Shota confirmed he wasn't hurt. Fuse slowly stood up, still recovering from the shock of the crash. Shota walked towards him, his face showing concern. Fuse angrily asked Shota why he saved him and screamed that he should have just left him alone. Shota looked up at the sky, his expression softening as he seemed to understand Fuse's pain. Shota told Fuse he knew he had been left alone his whole life, which made Fuse react strongly. Memories of abandonment and loneliness flooded Fuse's mind, making him feel overwhelmed. Flashbacks showed a young Fuse going out alone, his parents never home, and later calling a disconnected number. More flashbacks revealed adults scolding him and giving up, making him believe even his parents had given up on him, leaving him feeling worthless. Shota explained that in his world, children are never left alone because they are considered valuable assets. He showed Fuse images of children in military training and carrying heavy loads, highlighting how a child's life was always important. Shota admitted he came from a world where a child's life was easily lost, but insisted that a world that doesn't help a boy like Fuse is deeply flawed. He extended his hand to Fuse, offering support and a connection. Shota told Fuse he wasn't alone, and if he ever felt angry or upset, he could always come to him. He promised to fight with Fuse as many times as he wanted, showing his commitment. In a symbolic moment, Fuse reached out and shook Shota's hand, creating a strong bond between them as the control room crew watched. The girl in the control room was surprised by the emotional teacher, saying he was just like the hot-blooded Shota. The man smiled, and the girl commented that after the emotional storm, the ground felt firm, like things were settling down. The rain stopped, and a beautiful rainbow appeared over the city, signaling a new beginning. Fuse called out to Shota, addressing him as Mr. Echizen, as they walked away from the crash site. Fuse, a little shyly, offered his help, saying he had connections in the area if Shota ever needed anything. Shota playfully said he'd ask if he ever needed a cat's paw, while the drone continued to record them. Back in the control room, the girl was furious, realizing their organization had to clean up the wrecked bikes and everything, telling Melon it was her job. She complained loudly that she was always stuck cleaning up Shota's messes. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure stood under a black umbrella, watching Shota and Fuse from a distance. The man under the umbrella grumbled, calling Fuse a gutless coward. He then declared it was time for Plan B, his face full of determination as Shota and Fuse walked away in the background. The mysterious man angrily vowed that he would definitely get that teacher expelled from Atori Academy. A pretty picture of a girl hangs on the wall, showing her sweet smile. A young man named Heike looks very happy, completely lost in his thoughts about something lovely. Heike is shown hugging the picture, his heart thumping, just as a maid comes to his door, asking to clean his room. The maid prepares to enter, but Heike shouts at her to wait, not wanting her to come in. Heike is very angry, yelling at the two maids who have now entered his messy room. He points his finger and threatens to tell his dad to fire them if they come into his room without permission. The maids discuss how the young master never lets them clean his room, and how the main master is always busy with work. They continue cleaning other parts of the house, noting that the master rarely comes home because he is so busy. The maids mention that even on his rare days off, the master goes straight to his villa in Izu to polish his precious vase. The grand villa stands under a clear sky, looking very fancy and peaceful. Inside, a beautiful, sparkling vase shines brightly, capturing all the attention. The master looks at the vase with a wide, happy smile, clearly very pleased with it. He gently touches the vase, proudly calling it a national treasure, a kakemono. He continues to polish the vase with great care, saying it's so beautiful he wouldn't mind putting it in his own eye. Back at Heike's home, a maid asks if he ordered delivery again, offering to cook him a fresh meal. Heike, lying lazy amidst food containers and mess, shouts back that he can do whatever he wants with his allowance and tells the maids not to boss him around. The maids sigh, understanding that only giving him money and not spending time with him has made him turn out this way. One maid thinks seriously about how important education is and decides she will raise her own child very carefully to be a good adult. This chapter is titled Handgun Class, Chapter 13. 1 week later, a quiet school building stands under a bright sky. Inside the music room, a student named Kyuju-san plays the piano beautifully, filling the air with music. Her fingers move gracefully across the piano keys, creating lovely melodies. She looks very calm and focused while playing the piano. After her performance, everyone applauds Kyuju-san, who bows politely. Kyuju-san smiles, holding her music sheet, as someone observes that there are no problems with the princess front today. A blonde teacher mentions that nothing bad has happened since the sniper trouble, and another student finds the piece a bit boring. The teacher then remarks that peace is a good thing, but wonders where Shota, another student, is. He hasn't seen Shota since that morning and wonders what he's up to. A student answers that Shota is getting scolded by Principal Tazaki, which makes the student think the gentle principal must be very upset. Echizen stands formally in a suit, ready to face the principal. Principal Tazaki looks very troubled and is sweating, clearly worried about something. Echizen salutes, apologizing sincerely to the principal for any trouble he caused. He then asks the principal what exactly he did wrong as the principal tells him to come closer. The principal is extremely stressed, holding something in his hands that seems to be the cause of his worry. He shows Echizen a bunch of photos, his face full of panic. The principal explains that these photos are from the extracurricular lesson the other day, and Echizen calmly asks what the problem is with them. Echizen looks closely at the pictures, still confused about why they are an issue. The principal gets angry, jumping up and shouting that these photos were sent to the PTA. Echizen asks if PTA is some kind of Asian NATO, but the principal quickly corrects him, explaining it's the Parents Association. The principal explains that PTA stands for Parent-Teacher Association, and Echizen, still calm, thinks it must be a small group. The principal eats a dumpling and warns Echizen not to underestimate the Parents Association, saying they are much more powerful than he thinks. He dramatically declares that nowadays, the PTA has more power than the principal himself, showing a group of stern-looking women with lightning around them. Echizen is shocked, asking if the PTA really has more power than Principal Tazaki. The principal confirms it, adding that the PTA president, Ushijima-san, is the wife of an important provincial assembly member. The powerful Ushijima-san is shown with her husband, and Echizen acknowledges that assembly members are indeed powerful people. Echizen thinks about how things should be in a democratic nation, but the principal cuts him off, shouting that the situation is very bad. The principal reveals a mysterious letter threatening to leak information to video sites if Echizen is not fired, making Echizen realize his mission might be in trouble. Echizen wonders what to do, suspecting that someone else is behind the leaked photos, not just the original person involved. He looks at the scattered photos and the threatening letter with a serious expression, deep in thought. Echizen realizes that a secret third party, a shadow fixer, is working behind the scenes, pulling strings and spreading information. Principal Tazaki watches nervously as Echizen thinks about what to do next. Echizen reassures the worried Principal Tazaki, telling him not to worry. With a determined look, Echizen declares that he will personally track down this mysterious shadow fixer.
Smash that like button. If this is your first time here or you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe right now. And yes, activate that hype button too so the video can reach even more people. Drop your opinion in the comments or leave a funny emoji. Everything works. Every single like, subscribe, and hype gives us a power boost, bro.